Panathinaikos are one of the most successful teams in Greek football and are one of only 3 clubs which have never been relegated from the top division. They are the only Greek club to have reached the European Cup final, which they unfortunately lost 2-0 to Dutch giant Ajax in 1971. The club have a total of 20 Greek championships and 19 Greek cups to their name. However, their last championship win was the 2009-2010 season, and their last Greek Cup triumph came in the 2021-2022 season. In today's video, I'll be taking over the Athens club for 5 seasons in FM24, aiming to take the Shamrock back to the top of Greek football. In season 1, I was expected to finish in the league's top 2 places and be competitive in the Champions League. The backroom staff needed improvement, and although I had talent in the squad, a lot of players were in the final year of their contract. So with almost 900,000 in the transfer budget, it was time to get to work on bringing players in for season number 1. Before I did that though, I got on to improving our staff, and we now sat firmly as the best in the division. And my transfer business got underway as I loaned out Cantalapidra until the end of the season to Norwegian side Mold. Just one other player left the club in the summer of season number 1 as Juan Carr left for Girona in a £170,000 move. And if you were laughing at how I pronounce his surname, you are not alone. 2 players came into the club this summer, and the first was experienced right wing back Alex Vidal, who joined on a free transfer after his contract ran down at Espanyol. And the second and final transfer through the door was Juan Carr's replacement Cesar Ibanez, who came in from Argentinian side Hurricane in a £1.3 million move. The tactic I would be using for season number 1 was a 4-2-3-1 gegenpress style tactic, and with all my summer business out of the way, it was now time to simulate season number 1. Just before the window closed, I was able to bring in one more player as attacking midfielder Jesse Lingard joined on a free deal. And despite being predicted to finish in 3rd place in season number 1, we managed to win the Greek Super League, losing 7 games, drawing 2 and winning 27 across the season, amassing 83 points and finishing 2 points over city rivals Olympiacos. However, our rivals did get revenge on us in the Greek Cup, beating us in the semi-final over 2 legs 5-3. The Champions League was always going to be a tough ask in season number 1, but how did my Panathinaikos side get on? Well, wins over Ukrainian side Dnipro and Scottish side Rangers meant we were heading into a playoff to make it to the Champions League group stage. Here we faced Belgian side Genk, and after a 2-0 away loss, we had it all to do in the second leg. But my players really stepped up to the plate as we destroyed the Belgian side 8-0 to make it into the Champions League group stage, where we faced a tough group alongside Napoli, Leipzig and Copenhagen, and losses over Napoli and 2 losses to Leipzig, a draw away at Copenhagen and wins at home to Copenhagen and Napoli meant we were out of the Champions League, but we're heading into the Europa League playoff knockout round, where we face Scottish side Rangers once again, and after losing the home tie 3-1, we had it all to do in Scotland. But there was to be no miracle this time, as we lost the game 3-0, sending us out of Europe with a 6-1 aggregate score. Despite the disappointment of Europe, it had been a great first season from this squad, as we claimed our first title of this rebuild, with 5 players hitting double figures, with striker Ioannidis being the standout performer, hitting a massive 39 goals in 45 starts. However, 9 players were out of contract this summer, and the board were giving me £4.3 million to spend for season number 2, a season where we were looking to retain our Greek title, challenge for the Greek Cup and make a mark on the European stage. The board expected me to be competitive in the Champions League and finish in the top 3 in the Super League for season number 2. My summer business got underway as 9 players left the club after their contract contracts ran down, and I brought 1.2 million into the club as striker Andres Sporar joined Real Zaragoza in Spain. The last transfer out of the club this summer was Laszlo Kleinheisler, who joined Paphos in Cyprus for £170,000. 7 players joined the club on free deals this summer, with defenders Robin Koch, Scott McKenna and Valery Bondar all joining the club. And I strengthened the midfield as Scottish midfielder David Turnbull and Algerian Haris Balkebli both joined the club on free transfers. Just 2 more players joined the club on free deals, with Japanese right winger Naoki Maeda and Georgian striker Georgi Kivlataya both joining the club. I spent money on 2 players this summer, with goalkeeper Plamin Andreev joining from Levski Sofia in a £2.6 million move. And I spent £3.4 million on Daniel Klusevic, who joined from Spartak Moscow and could play a number of positions. So with my summer business wrapped up and my squad and starting 11 looking much stronger, I was now ready to simulate season number 2. Season number 2 saw us fail to retain the Greek title as we finished in second place on 76 points, 9 points clear of third place Olympiacos, but 10 points behind eventual champions AEK. Striker Ioannidis finished in second place in the goal scoring charts with 19 goals, but goalkeeper Alberto Brignoli topped the clean sheets charts for the division with 15 clean sheets across the season. We entered the Greek Cup in the 6th round and dispatched second division side Chania with an 8-4 aggregate scoreline. This saw us head into the quarter-finals, where we beat PAOK 3-2 over the 2 legs, and the semi-final saw a comfortable 5-0 aggregate win over Atromitos, meaning we were heading into the Greek Cup final, where we faced a tough game against Athens rivals Olympiacos. But we were brilliant on the day and beat our rivals 3-0 to lift the Greek Cup. So season number 2 had already been a great one as we finished second in the league and lifted the Greek Cup. But how did we fare in the Champions League? While wins against Bosnian side Mostar and Slovakian club Slovan Bratislava meant we were heading into a playoff round, where we faced Ukrainian side Dynamo Kiev, and after a 3-0 home win in the first leg, we had 1 foot in the Champions League phase, and we finished the job off in Ukraine with a 5-3 win on the night, sending us into the league phase, where 5 losses and 3 wins meant that we narrowly missed out on getting to the knockout playoff round for a second season in a row. Overall though, it had been a great second season with standout performances from new signings Koch and David Turnbull, who hit 15 goals and 10 assists across the season. But that man Ioannidis had a great season once again, finishing the season top scorer with 29 goals throughout the season. I wanted the Greek title and to push on in Europe in season number 3, and the board had given me almost £2.2 million to do so. In season 3, the board were expecting us to reach the Champions League proper and challenge for the Super League title. So I went to work on bringing players in who could help us achieve this. The first players through the door were backup goalkeeper Alvaro Montero and Serbian left-back Slobodan Urasevic, who both joined on free deals. And 3 other players joined the club on free deals this summer, as midfielder Santiago Sosa, central midfielder Leandro Paredes, and left-sided Japanese attacking midfielder Koki Saito all joined the club on free transfers. The majority of my budget went on Danish defensive midfielder Nicholas Madsen, who joined from Westerlo in Belgium for a fee of £3.4 million. And the final transfer into the club this summer was striker Philip Bungard, who joined on loan from Manchester City until the end of the season. Enis Kokaj left the club for Saudi Arabia, alongside Georgios Nikas, who left in a £33,000 deal, and Naoki Maeda and Eric Palmer-Brown both left for £1 million, with the main money coming into the club from the sale sale of Georgi Kivlatea, who left for Lech Poznan in a £1.5 million move. So with some good business done in the transfer window and a switch of tactic for the upcoming season, it was now time to simulate season number 3. While Season 3's league campaign couldn't have gone any better, as we won the second Super League title of this rebuild, finishing a huge 12 points ahead of AEK and losing just 2 games across the season. Ioannidis hit 24 goals across the season, with Bungard getting 20, and goalkeeper Brignoli was once again top of the clean sheets charts as he got 10 across the season. But there was to be no domestic double this season, as we were beaten in the semi-final of the Greek Cup by a 5-2 aggregate scoreline to rivals Olympiacos. I was hoping my Panathinaikos side could really push on in Europe in season number 3. So how did our Champions League campaign go? Wins over Partizan and Scottish side Rangers in the qualifying rounds meant we were heading into the playoff for the 3rd season in a row. Here we faced Portuguese giants Benfica, and after a 4-1 loss in the away tie, we had it all to do in the second leg. But we were once again outclassed by the Portuguese side and were knocked out of the Champions League with a 7-2 aggregate scoreline. This wasn't the end of the world, as we went straight into the Europa League phase, and after just 1 loss and 7 wins, we were heading into the last 16 of the Europa League. Here we faced Slavia Prague, and after 2 games the 2 teams could not be separated, but we managed to overcome the Czech side with a penalty shootout win. Here we faced Aston Villa of the English Premier League, and after a 3-1 win in the home leg, we had 1 foot in the semi-final. And after a great defensive display at Villa Park, we got the result we needed and were heading into the semi-final of the Europa League, where we would face French side Rennes, and after a 1-1 draw away in France, we were surely favourites for the second leg. And favourites was an understatement, as we hit the French side for 6 in the second leg, sending us into the Europa League final, where we would face English Premier League side Tottenham, who had a cracking team on paper. Fortunately for us, football isn't played on paper, it's played on grass, and we beat the English side 3-2 to lift the Europa League trophy, in the first in Panathinaikos history. It was an absolutely amazing season from the squad, with 6 players getting into double figures, as on loan Bungard hit 23 goals and 17 assists, with our top scorer once again Ioannidis, who hit 43 goals in 53 games across the season. Now normally I'd be worried about Bungard heading back to Manchester City for next season, but not this year, as we had Kolio Kostas, who'd come through the development centre and had scored 23 goals in just 33 starts this season. So season 3 would be hard to top, and the board had given me just over $1 million to spend next season, but the wage budget had gone up significantly, so it was time to see what business I could do for season number 4. A number of players left the club on free deals this summer, as Alex Vidal announced his retirement, and Georgis Katris and left back Cesar Ibanez all left the club after their contracts had ran down. Left winger Miguel Tavares left for second division club Kalamata in a £14,500 deal, and we were dealt a crushing blow as central defender Robin Kosh's release clause was triggered, and he left for Saudi Arabia in a £10.5 million move. That wasn't the only crushing blow we suffered in this window, as left winger Koki Saito also had his release clause of just £6.5 million triggered and also left for Saudi Arabia. We needed to get to work bringing players in, and 6 joined the club this summer on free transfers. The first of these was Swedish goalkeeper Carl Joelsson. He was joined by central defender Luis Sao, Spanish right back Juan Lu, talented Chilean central midfielder Marcelino Nunes, Koki Saito's left-sided Brazilian replacement Rainier, and Italian striker Lorenzo Luca, who would hopefully plug the gap that Bungard, going back to Man City, had left. left. 2 players joined the club for money this summer, with Lucas Kalvac joining from Victoria Pleasant in a £63,000 deal. And he was joined by central defender Robin Kosh's replacement as Saul Salcedo joined the club in a £775,000 deal. But my business wasn't done there, as midfielder Gabriel Vidovic and left-back Franz Kratzig both joined on loan from Bayern Munich until the end of the season. So my summer business was done, with most of the new players going straight into the starting 11. And although David Turnbull was out for 8 months, I still felt like our squad was really strong and was now ready to simulate season number 4. Season 4 started with a narrow loss to last season's Champions League winners Manchester City in the UEFA Super Cup, and the January transfer window saw us offload left-back Urasevic, who joined Zamex in Switzerland for $135,000. We also sold centre-back Valery Bondar, who joined Shakhtar in Ukraine for $4.8 million. And after the board backed me, I was able to bring in centre-back Strahinja Erakovic, who joined from Zenit St. Petersburg in Russia for a fee of £13 million. He helped us to retain our Greek title as we finished as champions, losing just 2 games across the season, finishing on 90 points, 5 points clear of second place AEK Athens, with striker Ioannidis bagging himself 43 goals and strike partner Lorenzo Luca hitting 31 throughout the season. The Greek Cup saw us entering the 6th round, and a 5-1 aggregate win over Guchtas sent us into the quarter-final, where we faced Division 2 side Lamia, and a 10-1 aggregate win sent us into the semi-final, where we faced Athens rivals AEK, and after a 4-1 away win in the first leg, we had 1 foot in the final. And the second leg proved just as easy, as we beat our Athens rivals 3-0 on the night and 7-1 on aggregate, sending us into the Greek Cup final, where we would face PAOK, and hat-tricks from Ioannidis and strike partner Lorenzo Luca helped us to a huge 11-1 victory to lift the Greek Cup and claim the domestic double. After we lifted the Europa League last season, Greece had risen up the rankings, meaning we didn't have to qualify for the Champions League and went straight into the league phase this season. The league phase threw up some tough opposition, and we lost games to Barcelona, Benfica, Leipzig and Celtic, but had great wins against Man United, Marseille, Strada and Craiova, meaning we were heading into the Champions League knockout playoff round, where we lost the first game at home in Athens 2-1 to Austrian side Red Bull Salzburg, and the second leg in Austria proved too much for us, as we were beaten 2-1 on the night, losing 4-2 on aggregate, sending us crashing out of Europe. Despite the disappointment of Europe, it had been a great season where we claimed the domestic double, with standout performances from new man Luca, who hit 41 goals in 53 games, and striker Ioannidis, who hit 53 goals in 44 starts across the season. In the 5th and final season, I wanted to retain the Greek title, win the Greek Cup and have a real go at the Champions League, and the board had given me $664,000 to spend in the transfer market. So it was time to see what business I could do for this 5th and final season. Daniel Mancini and goalkeeper Alberto Brignoli both left on free deals this summer after their contracts ran down. They were joined out of the door by centre-back Luizao, who joined Lecce in Italy on loan until the end of the season. Nicholas Madsen headed to Saudi Arabia in a £4.5 million deal, and I was absolutely gutted to lose him, but Marcelino Nunes went to Saudi Arabia after his release clause was triggered and left the club for $16.5 million. Goalkeeper Carlos Acevedo joined the club on a free deal, alongside centre-back Jarell Quansah and left-backs Josh Wilson-Esbrand and Franz Kratzig, who all joined the club on free deals. And the free deals kept coming into the club as Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Matteo Mateo Kovacic, attacking midfielder Fabio Carvalho, and wingers Araujo, Gonzalo Borges, and talented winger Edward Chilufya all came into the club on free transfers. The final transfer into the club this summer was Nunes replacement Matias Galarza, who came in from Brazil in an £8.75 million deal. So despite the disappointment of losing Nunes, I felt that we had done some really good business over the summer and the starting 11 and squad looked very strong. So it was now time to simulate this fifth and final season, and fingers crossed we could win some more silverware to add to our growing collection for this 5-year rebuild. Season number 5 saw us lift our 4th Greek title of this rebuild and 3rd in a row as we finished the season on 94 points, losing just 2 games across the season and ending up 9 points clear of rivals Olympiacos. We once again entered the Greek Cup in the 6th round, and a 13-6 aggregate win over 2nd division side Panathinaikos meant we were heading into the quarter-final, where a 5-2 aggregate win over rivals Olympiacos meant we were heading into the semi-final. Here we faced fellow Super League side Panathinaikos, and a 7-5 aggregate win saw us heading into the Greek Cup final once again, where we would face Athens rivals AEK, and goals from Lorenzo, Luca and Rainier meant we were lifting the Greek Cup once again. In the Champions League phase, losses to Liverpool and PSG, draws to Juventus and Milan, and wins over Napoli, Ludogorets, Rennes and Midtjylland meant we were heading into the Champions League playoff knockout round, where we faced Italian side Napoli, and after a 3-2 loss in the first leg, we completely destroyed the Italians 6-0 to head into the last 16 of the Champions League, where we faced French side PSG, and an 8-3 aggregate scoreline saw us crashing out of the Champions League. It's been a great season from my Panathinaikos players, with Kovacic, Rainier, Kolio Kostas, Lorenzo, Luca and Ioannidis all getting into double figures, with Luca scoring 39 and Ioannidis once again finishing top scorer with 44 across the season. The aim of this Panathinaikos rebuild was to dominate Greek football, and we certainly achieved that, as we won 4 Greek titles, 3 Greek Cups and even a Europa League along the way. The club's bank balance was now looking healthy, and I had improved the training facilities and backroom staff, so overall it was a very successful time here in Greece. So everybody, that's it for today's video. If you do enjoy these rebuilds, please consider subscribing to the channel. I've got plenty more rebuilds lined up. Let me know in the comments if there's any clubs you'd like to see me do. Hit that like button, and I'll see you all in the next one.